Afternoon, the Office of the National Chief Imam has taken a strong exception to, of course, a lot of issues that are happening in the Christendom. Of course, the allegations by the head pastor of the Glorious Word Power Ministries International that Sheikh Osman Nuhu Shaributu seeks spiritual protection from him. In a statement, from the Chief Imam, the Reverend Isaac Ozu Bempa actually claimed, some of the claims he's making are untrue. That's from their side and should be dismissed completely by all well-meaning Ghanaians. I just want to bring you excerpts of that statement before we get to the conversation. It indicates that the attention of the Office of the National Chief Imam has been drawn to a number of publications in which Reverend Isaac Ozu Bempa of the Glorious Word Ministries International is alleged to have made some remarks considering the considered to be disparaging to His Eminence, the National Chief Imam Sheikh Dr. Osman Nuhu Shaributu. The statement continues to indicate that in one of these remarks, Reverend Isaac Ozu Bempa alleges that His Eminence and, quote, other leaders consult him to look into their destinies. He then refers to his earlier false prophecy about His Eminence and asks the following rhetorical questions. Do you know what went on between the Chief Imam and SIC? I'm not really getting the indications there. But beyond that as well, when I was in his bedroom, do you know what went on? These were some of the comments that Reverend Isaac Ozu Bempa is quoted to have said. Then it continues to read that we wish to state that all the claims of Reverend Isaac Ozu Bempa contain no iota of truth, but represent the figment of his own imagination. Undoubtedly, His Eminence is a champion of interfaith harmony and peaceful coexistence, but he does not seek protection and prosperity from charlatans on the pulpit. As a true icon of faith, His Eminence is guided by the divine words that Allah is sufficient for any person who relies on Him. And the statement goes on to say that we further observe with dismay the photograph that accompanies the irresponsible publication given to give Reverend Isaac Ozu Bempa's fiction a semblance of veracity. It is significant to mention that his photograph was taken when Isaac Ozu Bempa came to actually apologize to His Eminence for the false prophecy that threatened national security about 2 years ago. Ideally, the photograph only shows how His Eminence tolerated and extended a hand of reconciliation to a provocateur. We therefore do not expect the photograph to be used as an instrument of further provocation against the personality of the Chief Imam. And the statement is quite lengthy, but let's get more on this. Joining me in studio now is spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Arimi Al-Shaibu. He's joining us here. Thank you so much, sir. Happy New Year. It's good to see you.
Many happy returns.
Yeah.
Thanks for the wishes of the season.
Right. I wasn't hoping to start off the year with you on this conversation, but be it as it may, that's what we're coming to meet. So let's start off with the words you used in that statement. Describing a man of God as a charlatan is quite hard, you agree?
Well, let me confess that I'm not the author.
All right. Anyway.
I serve on the National Peace Council, so
you don't want to be too harsh on some of these
ones.
I
do is well guided, and I actually represent the Chief Imam there, whose spirit I very much understand.
Right.
But I think maybe a bit of communication gap happened. That's why that release came up, because just with the emergence of the story, I began some behind-the-scenes work.
Engagement.
Yeah, and my conclusion, having contacted the source, that is Ghana Web, was that the titling or the caption was misleading. And in my engagement with Ghana Web, they quickly now changed the heading. And then the second question is, the main subject of the preaching was not the Chief Imam.
Right.
If you go back to the tape, was not the Chief Imam. Why then do you use his picture? Yeah, Chief Imam is so huge. So once you use his picture and he has a lot of followers, you use his picture and it attracts attention. And then worsen the situation is then you use a misleading caption. then you generate a certain heat from the Muslim community.
And let me just find out this. What was the Chief Imam seeking to correct by putting out this statement?
Yeah, I think in my view, I mean, one is to raise caution,
Okay.
especially to the independent churches whose practice mostly is to prophesy, sometimes using his image. Yeah, I have seen.
Oh, people do that?
Yeah, I have seen on YouTube. On YouTube, I have seen, personally, I go on YouTube, I've seen on YouTube where not Reverend Osubempa, but others have used maybe some report and you found that Chief Imam's image is put there together with others, and then when you listen to the presentation, it has nothing to do with the Chief Imam. And that we find denigrating, desecrating a personality of somebody that we hold in high esteem, somebody who the nation holds in high esteem as a national asset. And I think it's something, for me, that is the relevance of this whole press release. It goes beyond Reverend Osubempa to all others who, because of Chief Imam's meekness, openness, open to everybody, he's a very traditional leader. He is not like you and I who believe in formalities.
Right.
If you decide to even put formalities, he will not agree. I mean, because and he opens his arm to everybody. That's why he is adversedly, overly accessible to everybody. And I think that this is to send a caution. Yeah.
There's the issue about extending another invitation. You've done that in previous times with the said man of God. Is the Chief Imam willing to engage them on this matter again?
Knowing the type of person he is, every day, Chief Imam will be prepared to meet any religious leader. Just in the Christmas season, the whole Christian Council paid him a courtesy call. And they brought up issues, especially on some of this nature, that whenever they happen, he hopes that, using our wisdom and the spirit of religion, we'll be able to really do something about and address it without allowing our stability, to be undermined. I mean, issues of such nature were raised. And Chief Imam was very at home with those requests, those recommendations. So anytime, during the first time, when he made the, prognostication, he came, Chief Imam opened his arm to him. Chief Imam from his inner chamber, Osubempa was the first person Chief Imam confronted with open arms and embraced him and made him to sit closest to him on that day. I was the one who was present there. And before Chief Imam came, he had stepped out and Osubempa and his elders entered. So they had to wait for him a bit before Chief Imam entered. Right. And when we were going to meet the press, Chief Imam held Reverend Osubempa's hand like a small boy. And that was to send a signal that as I hold him by the hand, if you touch him, you touch me. That was a signal. And he led him to the press where we all sat and had this thing. Some of the conversations that went on, I think I need to put this in public.
Right.
Chief Imam said something on that day, that any such events, when they take place, have the wisdom of God behind them. And it takes somebody, a mystic of his nature, a spiritual person to talk this way.
Right.
Yeah. So in other words, he didn't even see anything wrong with what had happened. But he's told everybody there that any such incident, when they happen, they have the wisdom of God behind. And he said, if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have met Osubempa. That's what the Chief Imam.
Right.
That is what inspired. Originally, Reverend Osubempa didn't want to even say a word. So what Chief Imam said inspired him. And he sought permission a minute
to say it.
And what he said was, he has now appreciated the depth of Chief Imam's wisdom. And on that day, he had adopted Chief Imam as his father, whom he shall be consulting from time to time.
And for many who are not vexed in the teachings of Islam, well, I'm not, is the practice impervious to prophecy, the teachings of prophecy? No.
We don't call it prophecy, but probably revelations of God. Okay. We have something we call God takes away the veil from your sight. In our Arabic term, we call it kashf. And we have what we call ru'ya. Ru'ya is to have a dream about a future occurrence or something that portends, something that could happen. Those things are there, and they are there for those who have prepared themselves to be able to go through.
So you believe in prophecy? Or
yeah, we believe in prophecy, that somebody can be spoken to by God. And one of the things that we believe, I mean, dreams. So we have the story of Joseph in the Holy Quran, right? That who saw a dream, right? And the king who dreamt, and the prophet of God, came to give interpretation to that. So we believe on the basis of our own religion. But to say that we go to, like it was, the impression was right. created. Right. And that is where I think the sensitivity comes in. As if Chief Imam of a level that he operates, that he comes low to go to a reverend minister to ask to consult him about his destiny. In fact, but the story did not say so. I will insist here. But it was misleading. So it was the caption by the journalist who misled the public, as if that was what was said. But it was in passing that he made a reference to an earlier meeting with the Chief Imam. So it was not the main subject. But be that as it may, the fact that there was no need to even make reference to the Chief Imam, and you made it, then you attract some of this. So it's only a matter of caution. So what we did was to talk behind the scenes. And that is what I began doing. I spoke to the office of Osibampa, the church, and I was also speaking to the Ghana Web for us to get this.
And you are a man of many hats. You equally deal with the Peace Council, and you speak for the Chief Imam. The fear is you are trying to avoid any form of reprisals again, just as we witnessed when, of course, the earlier incident happened. How are you talking to your members, people who subscribe to your faith and may take this on and be bitter about some of the experiences in the past?
My earlier reaction, because others have sent me the thing on my phone, and when they do, they expect certain reactions. Reactions, quick reactions, and one that will also be tough. To show that these things, we take complete exception. Of course, we take exception to it. But, matters of public and matters of religion and the way that we operate in this country, we are very, very careful not to react in any way that gives rise to conflagrations in the country. And so our message usually is that, take your time. Let me authenticate this. Any time I have received any information from any media house about a certain thing against the Muslim in which we are expected to react, I do not react immediately until I have authenticated. An example is the Wesley Girls case. My first question was that, are we sure that's exactly what the woman said, what the headmistress said? I was interested in that, because that will be the basis for our action. Did she actually say what has been told? Apart from the action, finally, when we met, we noticed that no, that was not exactly what the woman said. So because of that, we are careful, and I think want to use this occasion to educate our public that, look, there's a text of the Holy Quran. Okay. And this must guide us. He said, if the mischievous, and I'm using this word mischievous, comes to you with an information, he says, seek clarification. Seek clarification. Lest you react in hatred to the one who does not deserve your hatred, or you act on ignorance. Right. This is a Quranic text. This is a Quranic text. So it means that any information that comes to us warranting any action, first step is to seek authenticity, seek confirmation. Right. If you have not exhausted avenues to establish this, you don't.
So that's what's guiding you. Now, you are equally asking the IGP to do something about some of these pronouncements. Should we get to the IGP on this? Well, the churches are already complaining that you're cracking down on religious freedom. It's as though you're giving, the go-ahead to the IGP to do more, when, of course, some of these churches are complaining. What's the expectation from the Chief Imam as to how you want the IGP to come in at this point?
Like I said, I'm looking at general import, because I did not author that letter. Generally speaking, any matter that has to do, because already the IGP has already given some word of caution, which, from my angle, I agree. Even though I also want the IGP, the law, to be cautious not to traverse into areas of religion, so that religious rights will be abused. But where actions of religious persons, not religion, where actions of religious persons seek to violate the law or to destabilize a country, the law must take its course. And I set an example of a Muslim. If I begin to behave like Sheikh, for example, and I'm the leader of the Boko Haram, or I'm a supporter of Boko Haram, and I come together and I preach Islam in the fashion that they do, anyone who does so, my view is that he must be arrested. The law must take its own course. Because that fashion of Islam will destabilize our country. And so do I expect that any Christian who, in the name of crusade, for example, and you can imagine, I mean, during the time of this Wesley, you had some of the very, very, very ferocious things that were said, warning Muslims and so on and so forth. Those are things that I think that if you violate the law, you incite the people, you incite one community against the other and give rise to conflagrations and confrontation between two major religions. If your actions intents, by way intention, do so, you must answer to the law. Not that when you are worshiping, after worshiping is our terrain. I mean, nobody enters there. But if actions of religious people undermine law, undermine the peace of a country, undermine security, who says the law cannot take? Islam is a religion that abides by law. And one of the texts says that, and so did we put you on a pattern of law. So therefore obey the law and not follow the whims of those who do not know. So the Sharia itself is law. So we believe in law as a religion. That's why our everything is ordered. So anything that has to do with law, that will not infringe on our right. But even as we do so, we want to live in peace. And I insist that Islam wants us as Muslims to live in a good relationship. And how I describe the empathetic relationship. Right. We don't believe in just tolerance where you are in your lane, I'm in my lane, and we have no interaction. No.
I understand that the Glorious Word Power Ministries has put out a statement. So let's get to it. So I come back to you, Sheikh. And SFs indicate that the attention of the church has been drawn to a press statement from the Office of the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Dr. Usman Nuhu Shaributu, dated the 4th of January 2023. Now, the press statement refers to some publications in which the General Overseer of the Church, Apostle Dr. Isaac Osubempa, is alleged to have made remarks concerning the Chief Imam, which the Office of the National Chief Imam considered disparaging to him. Then it goes ahead to say that Apostle Dr. Isaac Osubempa is alleged to have remarked that the National Chief Imam and other leaders consult him to look into their destinies. To begin with, the press statement arises from a misleading and false article published on the website on the 3rd of January 2023 with the caption, Chief Imam, other leaders visit us to look into their destinies. That's according to Osubempa. And then the statement goes ahead to say that our attention was drawn to the misleading caption and false article on a website in the late afternoon of 3rd January 2023 when an official from the Office of the Chief Imam by name, and he's here in studio with us, Sheikh Arimiao, spokesperson to the National Chief Imam, called to inform the office of the church of the publication on the website and sought to ascertain its veracity. Going forward, of course, we explained to Sheikh Arimiao that the caption of the article was misleading and the content littered with falsehoods. We urged the spokesperson to listen to the statement himself and form an independent opinion of the remarks of Apostle Dr. Isaac Osubempa. We wish to state emphatically that Apostle Dr. Isaac Osubempa has not at any time claimed that the Chief Imam visits him or consults him to look into his destiny. So that's the statement from the church. And you're saying that, well, you've listened to that tape yourself. You feel that,
I had an engagement with them behind the scenes.
And what's your independent opinion as they are asking you to form?
Yeah, my independent opinion is that the report was misleading.
Right.
Because from the day one, when I read the caption and I read the body, I noticed that it was misleading.
Right.
However, there's the part that he made a reference in passing
to his name.
Earlier visit to the Chief Imam, and that he has had some close engagement.
Sheikh, we'll be wrapping up, but I want to find out from you, going forward, do you intend to engage the Christian bodies? You were talking about how they visited the Chief Imam
yes.
late last year. Do you intend to do some interstate collaborations just to check some of these activities
Yes,
going
yes,
on?
yes. And I think one of my proposals, which because I serve also on the Peace Council,
right,
is to really suggest that probably some of those members of the independent churches, for example, will have to have some engagement with them, especially some of these prophecies and the use of the Chief Imam's image usually around this time, which can generate, some kind of controversies. And we hope that they will abide by some of the recommendations so that we keep the peace of this country. Already our economy is tottering, we are struggling hard, our security, we don't need this kind of thing at the beginning of the year. We don't need this at the beginning of the year.
It's the start of a new year.
Yes,
Maybe a message to your, of course, people who practice your faith and people who follow the National Chief Imam. What's the message for this year? We've heard from so many religious leaders. Some say it's going to be a year of difficulty. Some say it's going to be a year of financial turmoil. Some say it's going to be a year of victory. I don't know what your message is and what you have to share with your followers.
No. With the passage of every year and the ushering of every new year, we rather think more universally about time and how it passes and what time means. Those of us who are alive, we've lived for 365 days just within a twinkle of an eye. What did we do? The minutes and the hours and the months of 2022, for example, how far did we go with what we must do? Because they brought us opportunities within which we should be able to do things. Did we leave things undone? Did we waste? Did we waste those hours and minutes of 2022? How do we hope to make it up from here? Secondly, we must all the time, those of us who see God at the center of our equation, we must always have hope. Regardless of whatever the situation we are going through, nobody is chewing grass. We wake up in the morning and we are able, our country, nobody, visitors come 12 midnight, they are able to walk around. So let's have hope. Avoid over-politicization of issues. Everybody must put his shoulders to the wheel. Let us not be joyful about the current situation, but that even if we criticize, let's criticize with empathy. But I call on government spokespersons also to be humble. Wherever we have gone wrong, let's agree that things didn't go on well. So when we can combine this, then we look into the future with hope that as the years roll by, and young people must also be very careful with their lives and understand that God gives us time for a purpose, and they must use the purpose to guide their life.
And I'm grateful. That's Sheikh Karim Yao Shaibu. He's the spokesperson of the National Chief Imam. You're watching The Pulse. We'll return. We'll talk about illegal mining. It's up again in the news.